Welcome back, everyone, to the Energy for Sales podcast. Tim Hooper and David Oliphant, your hosts, where we believe if you're not having fun in sales, you may be doing something wrong. So, David, take it away.
There we go. And you are doing something wrong if you're not having fun. So one of the topics I wanted to talk about, and it does parlay into the session that Allison brought about listening,
Does.
but in coaching, um, especially when you're in the middle of an opportunity and the deal is progressing, the opportunity is progressing for, and I've heard this a couple of times, heard it again this week. Well, I'm talking to all the right people, but are you having the right kind of conversations?
Yeah.
Are you really having those conversations with that are going to move? They're going to move the needle. That are going to make you further connect, make you further be that consultant. There have been a couple blog posts over the last few weeks from our friend Jeff Bajorek that talked about this as well. That we owe it to tell what they sometimes don't want to hear, and having the right kind of conversations, having the right type of, we want to be liked. Yes, in sales, you don't want to buy from someone that you don't like, you don't want to be around. So
Yeah.
we're not going to be rude and boorish, but to be and somewhat be liked and respected. Those are definitely important. But we do have to have the right type of conversations. So Tim, when I threw it over to you, where did your mind went? Because you went a little different direction, and that's why we throw ideas back and forth
Yeah.
to let them have
Well,
a different view.
couple of questions. In fact, one of the sales reps that is actively in one of our coaching one-on-one coaching sessions right now, she called me this last week. She says, "Hey, got a situation. Talk me through it." So we spent 5 minutes on the phone, and basically what happened was, not to give the super specifics, but she was in conversation with a client who was giving business somewhere, but saying, "You're not going to get this business over here because A, I have a slow relationship, and B, there's this, and C, there's that, but you're getting all of it over here. And by the way, I'm sending referrals to you over here." And so she called to say, "What could I do more? What did I do wrong?" And so one of the things was, which first and foremost, I encouraged her. I said, "So tell me about the conversation." The conversation was business over here went somewhere else. She emailed, "Hey, I can service boom, boom, boom over here." The client called her. So that told me right away, you're at this trust level where your client picked up the phone, called you to tell you about the situation. We talked through it, we debriefed, David, and she had every level of the right conversation. She challenged, she told her value. "I'm available, I can be there, this, that, and the other." And then at the end of the day, I don't believe personally, and what I told her, you could have done anything differently. She had
Mm-hmm.
a business conversation. She asked deeper questions. Is there a reason why? Did we do something with the last transaction that whatever? She went and asked as many questions, and she told me all this. And I said, I said, at this moment in time, I would wait till this evening when you don't have to because you're not in business hours. And I would text that person and I would just say, "It meant a lot that you picked up the phone and called me." And I would encourage that behavior. And then you can keep dripping out the fact that you service this area. And if that ever changes or something disrupts, you'll be ready. But just thank
Mm-hmm.
them for picking up the phone and calling you. That's all you can have really done. But one of the things I always ask when coaching sales reps, and one of the things I would encourage anyone listening or watching this recording after, ask yourself, when you get the objection, when you get the no, when you get the whatever it is, are you digging in a little deeper or are you just taking it on the chin? Right? So are you digging in? And David, that's where you went. You had asked the gentleman you were coaching, well, they threw out price or they went somewhere else, right? And tell us about that conversation a bit, because that's, it's where all of us could learn. And
Yeah, I mean, it was really about seeking to understand. This is an opportunity for him that they used to have the solution. They went away to another competitor on price. They're wanting to come back, and so my questioning was, well, why do they want to come back? Well, they had this before, and they liked it, and they went away. Okay, so but what about it? What did they like about it? If you can't get to the why they liked it, what and I find a lot of sales professionals, like I would almost rather someone say, I hate this, because then you don't get happy years and you really have to drill in. But I'm seeing sales professionals at times and teams like they're skipping steps because, oh, they like it. Oh, they like me. So in this case, I was drilling into like, so what did they like about it? I know they left because of price.
Yeah.
So now that also tells you, and you're about to price something and you want to win it. So you're going to have, but you have to you have to get to the point of understanding what do they like about it. The conversation coming back, well, I'm talking to all the right people.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's
Yeah.
great. But are you having the right kind of conversations? And
Yeah.
so that was the genesis of it. Again, I see teams tripping up when and this, I mean, this was a conversation. I mean, he's connected to the CEO, so he's at the top. Um, but we have to get we have to understand that. So that was the genesis of it. Here's someone that pushed back that they were talking to all the right people.
Yeah.
They just they weren't gaining the information that they needed, that it seems from the outside looking
Yeah.
into the opportunity are going to be needed to move it forward or to allow him to price it properly.
I love it. And I know we've said this before, ABC, right? The old sales adage, always be closing. You and I have flipped that on its head. Always be curious, ABC,
Yes.
always be curious. If you run up
Yep.
against something, what's a question I can ask to give me more information, to give me more insight? But I want to pivot a bit. There is something you specifically coached on before, that when somebody throws out, hey, we're with this, we're with your competitor, and we're loyal, and they're treating us really, really good, and you're like, so you're, there's a question, man. It was like, okay, that's great, but what would it take to be delighted?
Mm-hmm.
Or what would it take to, that's great. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Obviously you have invested in that relationship. I love talking to loyal people, because they're the kind that, we want to do business with. But
Mm-hmm.
what it sounds like you're happy. What would it take to make you delighted? I mean, just even again, thinking of different ways to
Right.
ask questions. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
go there for a minute.
one could be, great company. We're up against them all the time. Of course, we're never going to say anything negative about a competitor. That's not, that's never going to serve you well.
Right.
That's great. What do you love about it? What do you really enjoy about the relationship and about the solution? They'll tell you, if you had a magic wand and could create any, as opposed to saying, what do they not do well? If you had a blank palette and you had paint, like what would you paint? Like how would
Yeah.
it be improved? The
Yeah.
solution, and it's a very non-confrontational, it's hard for them to say, well, nothing. Like, you're going to get something. It might take a while
Right.
because now they're picturing something that they have never pictured before. Like, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe if turnaround time or their service level agreement, their SLA, was, instead of 4 hours, was 1 hour or 20 minutes. Some of that designing might also tell you, like, I can't win this business because
Yeah.
what they desire, I cannot, you
Yeah.
know, I can't do it. More robust reporting. Well, you might have more robust reporting, and that's going to play right into you. So those are some ways to do it. All too often, still, I mean, don't be afraid to talk about the competition. They're doing business with somebody. I mean, be
Right.
curious. Let's
Right.
figure out what they like about it, and instead of saying, "What do you hate about it?" or
Which ties right into Allison's training, is just, if you, and what Justin's, the cook method. If I don't know, I ask. And
mm-hmm.
you don't have to make it awkward. You can just understand we're all professionals, and you're seeking to understand, and what's working really well. What would it take to be delighted? What are maybe some, dreams or wishes of
Mm-hmm.
yours that you're not getting today, that you've thought about, maybe could be, because that could open up doors of opportunity for
Right.
you as a supplier to come in and solve some needs that maybe their current supplier partner isn't bringing to the table. We've won away business steadily by just asking what's out here, what hasn't been brought to your. So that's great. I also want answer a
I think
question.
also one quick
Oh,
thing,
go
I
ahead.
think that it could also bring up a whole other solution or a whole other set. Well, they do that great, but I wish they did this. It's like, well, did you know we did that? To go back to your conversations from earlier, oh, I didn't know that. A lot of times our clients put us into a corner and they don't know the full breadth of how we can help them.
And to go one step further, well, they do this. They do this for us. And I've seen sales professionals, well, we do that too. Time out. Well, they do this for us. What do you love about how they do that?
Tell me more about
Tell
that.
me more about that. What do you love? And just keep drilling down till you feel like you have at least the border of the puzzle put together. And then you can come back and say, that's so interesting. That's awesome. We actually did some data, some research in the market and found out that this provider that we bring in does this, this, and this. Not saying it's better. You could present things totally differently in such a more amicable way if you ask more questions and don't just take at face value. Because you got, again, David, I like that you said happy years. Oh, they do this for us. And then immediately in your mind, you're thinking, well, we do that too. So we're going to win the business. No, time out. What do you love about how they bring? Well, the solution is not really that great, but the rep. Oh my goodness, I love the rep. You will find out things,
right,
and be able to take the conversation totally in a different direction if you'll just slow down and ask better questions. To Allison's point,
and sometimes you can be humble. Wow, that's on me. I should have shared earlier in our conversations that that's something that we would love to help you with.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take it on yourself. It's like, oh, okay, I didn't know y'all did that. And then the conversation. But
and
you still have to go into what do you like about it.
Yeah. And that's a powerful response right there. So you're talking to the right people, but are you having the right conversations? Okay. And I want to get to a question that came in. And by the way, if you're listening or if you're watching this recording, in the description of this podcast is a link. And if you go to register for next month's podcast, there's a QR code in the Zoom registration page. So you can click the link below that says Jot Form, or you can scan that QR code as you register on Zoom. Both will take you to the same place, and you can send us your questions throughout the month that we will answer live. And one of the questions that came in, so thank you for sending this question, valued listener, is this. Tim, David, I've been meeting with this real estate agent, and like I've been meeting with them, and just not sending me any business. They like me, I like them, and so how do I move that forward? So as I was thinking through that question, I shortened it up a little bit here from a paragraph to one sentence. As I thought about that, the question we would have back for you is, what do those meetings look like? Oftentimes, as I'm coaching and David's coaching, what we find is a meeting might be, I had one attorney recently, David, he said, these real estate agents come to all of my classes and they never do business with me. They just take my trainings and just mooch off me. I was like, well, okay, that's great. For me, a training is kind of up here. What's after the training? What does that meeting look like? And come to find out, there's never been that follow-up one-on-one business discussion. The question that came in through the chat is, I think you have to ask yourself and be brutally honest, and no wrong or right here, but just be brutally honest. What level of conversation have you had? Was it undistracted, business related? Did you structure it in such a way that it was all about them and their business and learning about them? Or was this just brushing into them at the networking event or at the mixer or at their brokers open because that's what I see so many times. We're in casual conversations hoping that the business will come because I keep showing up in front of David. But I've never sat down and said, David, what's your vision for 24? What are you doing in the community? Where are you trying to go? Can I have that? Can I share coffee with you to find out? That's what I would answer back. David, I'm going to throw it to you to wrap this, though. How would you answer a sales professional who's been meeting with somebody who's not moving forward? What are some things they can think about?
Yeah, I think that you touched on a few of them. Like, is it intentional? Again, because a lot of times you'll run into people, you'll have these conversations, and and what's your goal? Is your goal to be liked? And he's the guy that's always here. He's always nice. He always brings bagels or donuts or whatever. Are you asked, is there a call to action? Do they know that you are there to help them and help them buy potentially from you? I think though, the formalization, at some point, if you're doing all those things and they're just not buying, we've talked about strategies. How can I be your number 2 or number 3? What's it take to get a little bit of business? I know you've got deep relationships. Is there a piece of the business that's a little harder for your current partner to handle? And that maybe we could take a look at that, like getting started something, build some trust,
get that foot in the door. Yeah. Yep.
And then, also, when you're in an opportunity, especially early on, I mean, those go forward objectives, we talk about it. Go ask them to find out a little bit of information. You'll know if you have an active buyer or, a passenger or a driver, a co-pilot. So
yeah, that's great. And again, as we wrap, you're talking to the right people, but are you having the right conversations? Sometimes you have to think, am I in the right setting? Have I grabbed their attention enough to ask those questions? What would it take to send the business? Listen, if we dig deeper, we will convert faster. And we believe that making connection count when we're connecting, make it count, asking better questions. Do you want to be the nice guy? The guy who always shows up with all the stuff? Is that all the mixers? And some people are working way too hard. And I don't mean that like you're working hard. You're just showing up to everything, but you're not really focusing, channeling those conversations deeper. Yep. So do you want to be that nice guy, or do you want to be that gal who shows up and she just asks the most intriguing, thought-provoking questions that make somebody walk away and think and want to pick the phone back up and call you because you were such a partner to get them to think? One powerful question is worth more than 100 answers. So take your conversations deeper. You'll convert faster. Don't just hang out with the right people. Challenge them in the right way. Ask the right questions. David, it was a great topic. You texted me earlier this week, and so I'm glad we were able to bring it. But thanks again to Allison. Check out her podcast, her training here on the podcast channel, and then subscribe. Share this with your friends. Thank you for being a valued listener. And also get registered for our live podcast next month and send us your questions. David, thanks, man.
Take care all.